Good evening. Greetings from Hamburg. Yeah, still hope you're doing well and fine and healthy, and so is your family doing. And I hope the levels are alright today. Spent almost half of the day fixing stuff or trying to figure it out. I have a problem. Greetings from Hamburg. And yeah, still hope. Let me send off a few quick notifications and just quickly check if everything is working. It seems to be, yeah, cool. Bitwig. Let's talk about Bitwig. Why am I doing this? If you just switch in and haven't checked out a video of my channel right now, I've done a few sessions about dub techno and that kind of stuff in Ableton, and because I'm also using Bitwig, I thought before going way deep into it and assume that everybody knows what the heck I'm talking about, I thought let's start at the beginning. By the way, hello Greg and hello Sienna, and if you're watching this at a later time, this is a live recording. I hope to be able to answer some questions along the way to clean up maybe a few misconceptions or stuff like that. I'm not yet super deep into Bitwig when it comes to the shortcuts and a lot of stuff, because there is so much that I started using it in my own way, and so I'm not the super pro right now. Quickly disable a few things. So, hey Craig, good morning, greetings to London. Oh boy. Yeah. So, like I said, I hope you are all healthy and still sane, and most of you are probably working remotely right now. I hope that your company has set up everything so that works flawlessly. And yeah, still weird times. That is my contribution to maybe spending like 1 or 2 hours connected with music and maybe get a few ideas and stuff like that. By the way, for the next live stream I want to do on Friday, that will be about Ableton Wavetable. Yeah, it should be. And well, if you'd like to join me on the social platforms, this time I was cleverer. I put it in the description already, so you don't have to search for that. Also Patreon, you're welcome if you want to join me there. But right now I'm really focusing on making these sessions, because I think from the feedback I've got from the last one, it seems to be a good idea to offer something. The way I see it, Berlin clubs start streaming from next weekend, if I reckon correctly. That's cool as well. So I have to set my times in order not to interfere too much. So let's see who's here. Ivan, hi. Mike, Felix, JCO is back again. Nice. Hi guys. Greetings to Russia. Is it Maxim? So, and first things first, are the levels better this time? I need some sanity check from you if everything has improved. And yes, the background stuff should be rather low right now. Pooh, that's good. That's really good. Yeah, I made some stupid mistake in OBS. It didn't properly use the routing settings. I bypassed everything, and so that didn't work. Anyway, Bitwig. Where does one potentially start trying to untangle the mess? Let me put my face a little bit back. And so, for those of you who haven't used Bitwig yet and are still using Ableton Live or Logic or Fruity Loops or Propeller Has Reason or whatever, where do you sort it in? Is it just live or different or what? And I guess the question will come anyway, and I wanted to postpone it for later, but maybe it makes sense to think about a perspective for a second. If you're using live, let's keep in mind what it has been designed to do. It's called live for a reason, isn't it? It is designed back in the day to fill a gap for performing music live and giving people the opportunity to take their electronic music on stage easier if they are working truly in the box. And I think it did and still does a great job for that. And I think with this design philosophy in mind, there also come a few limitations, of course, because you have to think about which functionality you want to offer and to not make things too confusing. Press a button in a club and you end up somewhere in some view that should be prevented, right? And in that sense, if I had to draw a line between live and Bitwig, is that I think Bitwig has been designed with a different idea in mind. It's called Bitwig Studio, right? And so it has much more functionality, and it also needs to present that. So there are more buttons on the interface, and I heard a few people said like, oh, it looks very confusing, and I stick to live, and I understand that. Given the design philosophy, that makes perfect sense. But the way I think about Bitwig is it wants to be much more than tool. It sits somewhere between live because you also have the clip thingy, but then it builds much deeper into all areas. I see some things from Cubase and Logic and these things, and on top of that, there are a few concepts that we're going to talk about, like the modulators. And my first touch point with that was I read all that stuff, modulation, cool, right now we have the grid, but what's really the benefit? I mean, it's cool and stuff, but what can we use this for? And that's what I want to get to grips with in this stream today. So you hopefully, if you're leaving this, have a better idea what this means to have these things and the way they are implemented. And setting some expectations what to get. That's what I'm going for. Quick chat check. Hey Stefan, you made it. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to remind you. So where does one start when talking about Bitwig? I think it makes sense to think about the user interface for a second. I'm really bad with learning new software, and that's a problem, really. When I first started editing videos, I sat in front of Premiere for a second and was like, oh no, I don't want to use that. Because it's an Adobe product and none of the shortcuts were working in the way I expected them to work. So it was clear that that isn't for me. And then I found out about Resolve and just started using that. And maybe it's I'm not familiar with this product thing that allowed me to get into that much more quicker. But then again, it also was very intuitive. And this is what also happened when I started using Bitwig for the first time. There are these neat things like these context menus. They are context sensitive. Whenever you press the right button, the content you get reflects the context you are in very well. And I found that to be really intuitive and useful, up to the point that I was looking for functionality like, how do I add, I don't know, this is our drum machine, how can I get its multiple outputs to work? How would I do that? And one of the first things, I went to the device. So Bitwig has a lot of ways to access devices that can be a little bit confusing at first, but I really like the presentation. If you go here at missing chains, you get all the individual outputs, and for some reason it's a little bit of dark magic to put functionality where people could potentially expect it to happen, and it just does this trick like all the time. And that what I find really interesting. Maybe that only applies to me. However, if you're looking for anything in Bitwig, try the right-click context menu. It works very well. Also, you can add your functionality to this area, can stick things up there. How did that work? Again, yeah, you have these pin buttons and things appear up here that if you need them. I like that. That appeals to me very much. The next thing I like about that is a workflow thing. I feel like I'm not looking as much for functionality when I need it, stuff that I don't use that often or frequently. It makes finding these things much easier. And this also contributes to the fact that you have the clip and arrangement next to each other. You can put one away if you want to. If that's your thing, more like a live experience, cool, you can have it. But I find this very, very handy, because the way they are tied together, it feels much more connected. For example, if I just want to record an arrangement, yeah, I'm right now somewhere else. So it's easy. I can see what I'm doing in the clip view. If I had more clips right now, I can see where it stops, where the next one starts. And there is not this change in direction that I like, and that has contributed to my workflow a lot. It's really cool. And if we, for example, want to listen to what we've recorded, there are these handy buttons. Now priority is at the arrangement, but anytime I can start the recording again and overdub if I want to. And if you have many clips and want to do edits, that's also a very handy feature. I think that works in live as well, but it's really how things are connected that make my life much more easier when I'm actually arranging something. So it's very well made. Same with automation. So we have the automation right here in its own tracks, just like in live and many other titles. However, if we want to start, I don't know, modulating this, can say at automation lane it changes the parameter here, and I can add that and start, I don't know, of course, just recording my stuff here, plus redubbing things like I showcased earlier. That's also this connection between this area and that I can, for example, structure my, my modulations. If I'm adding a lot of modulation, I can say like, this is my most important thing. I always want to see if I had 10 lanes, this is the most important one, and here I can say just show me the highlighted ones. And it's these details that in a lot of settings make a lot of sense and gets a lot of love. Obviously is the browser. It's just be wherever you are, depending on the context. That is your gateway to all your devices, settings, samples, presets, MIDI clips, projects. Is really convenient and makes things very, very simple. A lot of the time it results in less clicks and less looking for things. I love that. It removes a lot of time from the process. So that is the rather boring stuff, which isn't actually that boring, however easily overlooked, I think, or not enough credited. Any questions to the chat from, sorry. Am I even online? Yes, it looks stable and good. All right, so far so good. And the next thing that made me wonder as well is, okay, so it has this crazy modulation system, but what is it really good for? I mean, in live we have like Max for Live, and it does a lot of these things as well, like additional LFOs, envelope followers, envelopes and stuff like that. In Bitwig, it's simply much closer to the actual device, and the way it's presented, it uses less space to modulate things. Let's look at that. But first, Adrian. Oh, hi, by the way. Can you save track templates? Yes, you can. Templates can be anything. You can, for example, let me show you how this works. I go to this clip, I say save to library, and here save devices in clip. So if I don't test chord. Let's go to presets. No, I'm sorry, this doesn't work because so right now the MIDI clip also loaded. No, it didn't do that. That's a good question. What does it actually load? I need to check that out. That's one of the things I'm just not using because I'm also overwhelmed by the depth of its functionality. But yes, you can save track templates in other ways. For example, I have something on my master, and that is just like Ableton. So it works like a rack in this case, because I saved it as such. You load this FX layer and it contains all your plugins, and this can be anything from MIDI plugins to I don't know what. Empty vessel. After you type it to the browser and your result comes up, you can scroll down with keyboard scroll keys and then press enter to load, much quicker than mouse. Yes, as you can see, I'm also stubborn in my own ways. Yeah, great. Having a person who doesn't know jack shit about a software is going to tell you more about the software. Awesome. Like I said, I only know so much. Anyway, modulation. And you've probably seen this as well. You have your device, and this can be a Bitwig device or a VST plugin, and you're able to host Bitwig's modulators in these slots, and you have all these weird things, including envelopes, LFOs, things to interfere with MIDI, envelope followers, math stuff, ways to bend curves, and then you can feed modulators into modulators into modulators and modulate things with the output of that. And I feel the way this is integrated, because it's making not so much of a mess, but it's really well represented. I tend to use this much more often for a lot of things way beyond making synth sounds. And ending up using these things much more often and mutually, it doesn't feel like an add-on. It's really core part of the software, and they allow you to do so many incredible things. It, in a way, Bitwig in this regard feels like a synthesizer, not like a recording software for sound design. This is really amazing, and I'm sure you've heard that a lot of times already, but what then can we do about with that? So I don't want to dissect this patch. It's really just a simple chord sequence with a layer of these two polysynths, which I want to talk about a little bit later as well, because I think it's really genius. If you want to understand how this is much more like a modular, now I removed the thing. I'm sorry. I hope this isn't going to kill us. So this is 4 instances of the simple test tone generator with a few ring modulators, filters, phases, and all that stuff. It's not synced to any tempo. I mean, we are not even playing anything, and it really feels easily like my Eurorack, which isn't here today. It does all these weird things if you listen to that for a second. And you can do much more than simply play back instruments, even outside of the grid. I mean, we haven't even scratched that. If generative music is your thing, or you want to try some weird things like this, you just need the test tone. And then ring modulation and weird effects. There is nothing but Bitwig devices playing right now. And I think that's also a point to mention. They feel very, very musical and real to me. What they produce in terms of sound has very little noise, and the modulation, the way the modulation works, even at audio rate, is... I didn't expect it to work that well. Of course, there is the Nyquist barrier and you have aliasing as well, but I think very, very little of that. The audio quality is really good, and when you start modulating things a lot, it creates these sounds that feel very alive and unnoisy. I mean, what's this? Yes, it's weird, but I think that's damn cool for a test tone based thing. Like, this is really it's not a voltage controlled oscillator, but it's a simple oscillator that's just going through some stuff. I like how it responds to modulation. I mean, what's really doing all the messy stuff right now? I don't even know where it comes from. Would probably have to... I like the little plonks on top. That sounds rather smooth and analog, and not like a super weird, random, square random thing. Well done. Really well done. There's a lot of character in the filter, and every other effect you use also has this kind of quality to it. And that makes it very musical. So I.initial still in quarantine, right? Yeah. Yeah, but modulations are not only there for making weird sounds, obviously. Let me give you another example. Which project is it? This one. So no, that's not the right one. Let's get into a little bit of techno. Behold. If anything is too loud, please let me know. So, how to use modulators for mixing. For example, we have this clap track, and what I'm doing here, for example, is for one, putting a frequency shifter on the clap, and that usually means if you put something like a chorus or a frequency shifter on a clap, you are sacrificing your transient. Now, what we can do in Bitwig is simply, let me do this again, insert an envelope, and let's get rid of that for a second. So here is the rather blurred one. It's not straight anymore. It's somewhat washed out. I don't like that. But we can use an envelope to blend the... Why doesn't it work? Because I don't have a trigger coming in here. Yeah, obviously. No, let's do the audio sidechain. No, let's reverse. It was working. Sorry. So right now, I'm using the envelope to keep the effect mix out of the attack transient, because I want the punch coming from the middle and just have this little subtle frequency modulation on the tail, like this. And this is a huge mix helper. So usually I was waiting years for a chorus coming up. It was probably from Xilslab that let you control the mix with an envelope. So if you want to mix much more precisely, that's one way to go, and it works very easily. And these modulators are super accurate. Also, the audio sidechain, which extracts the incoming signal and turns it into an envelope follower, it does work up to really high audio rates and very, very short settings. It's damn good. And same here with the reverb. Just putting an LFO on the panning makes stuff a little bit more interesting. And because these modulators are always here, I use them much more frequently than I would use them if I had to look around. And that's also where everything is coming together. The browser is filtering only the modulators. That's handy. I don't have to look around and go out of my focus. I can stick to where I want to work and don't really leave the room. I mean, would you keep your toothbrush in the kitchen? No, it makes perfect sense, right? And that's what I'm using these things for all the time. Also for routing stuff to a bus, and instead of using a compressor, I'm distorting the crap out of that and just use an envelope to control the signal instead of a compressor, and that is much more accurate. So these modulators are really handy mixing tools for getting very granular with what you want and how you want to keep your punch. They are great tools to make things much more punchy and clean up stuff. Quick check. Dot initial, make an example again. An example of what? By the way, level's still alright. Should be fine if things work the way I wanted to. Alright. So, well, let's add something. So, let me give you a quick example. What can we add? Let's add a snare. So that's also these synth modules, the percussion, tons of fun. I wish I found a way to repeat this. Why is it so fast? That's not what I want. Ah, yes. 16 triplets are stupid. That's right. Anyway. So. Let's put this in solo and give you an idea. This is not about beauty, but let's, for example, modulate that. And what I like doing is using the steps. Let's put that to, I don't know, 7. Let's add some more. Let's go for... Yes, Greg, you're right. This is much more handy. Set it free. And let's add another layer. A slower one. That is nicely irregular. And it's just super handy. Does this do the job? Initial. By the way, what is ABL Pro? Something new? No, it's been out for 13 years. It's our 303 Cork MS-20 something weird thing. I need to make a stream about that as well. So, stereo jack levels okay today? Better? Yeah, let's talk about the very basic synth for a second. So obviously Bitwig also comes with a few devices, and right now there are wait, how can I filter that? There is no, sorry. There are the drums, an operator type of thing, very easy to use FM thing in organ, which is nice and fun to have. This phase 4 thing, like Casio take on FM, and the polysynth. And this thing is much more capable than it looks like. So it appears to be really dull and boring at first, but how you can blend the two oscillators and modulate everything alongside with its distortion modes and the feedback creates so much weird stuff. Let me give you a few examples. So it can sound anything from nice, lush, warm, like let's dial in some kind of quick for a second so you get the idea. And obviously we can also add tons of modulation for that. So, but the basic sound is really, really nice. It gets even more interesting if we start using stuff like this. I like that very much. Oh, I'm way too low. So it has all these weird timbres depending on the amounts of signal and feedback and all that stuff. But if you start modulating that, it gets really weird. And I really like the sound of the standard envelope. That's also just nice to have the option to go in between logarithmic and exponential and linear. And you know how obsessed I am with envelopes. It's really cool. How about some more SID type sounds? Now that's not exactly SID, but I also like how the sync sounds. And is this? Yes, JCO, it sounds very snappy. And it can also sound like really digital and harsh. That's not the right one. There was something really messy. Kaputter Kopierer bei Geldwäsche erwischt. Ja. Goes into vinyl crackling and stupid crazy ouch stuff, and this is just the device, nothing else. Kapot sounds promising too. And I think people talk way too little about this thing. It's amazing. It can generate all kinds of timbres very easily if you start using how you blend the oscillators and then use the drive and feedback in conjunction with the filter drive. There is a lot of weird sound in just this thing. Love it. And that's like the basic synth. And then there's the phase 4, who's much more complicated and complex, and I can probably make an entire video about that and not even scratching the surface. However, how does one use hardware with Bitwig? I know that's a concern for Felix, who has a lot of hardware, and so I'm switching projects to have something to sync this lovely OB6 to, which is sitting on the desktop, and let's see how to integrate that. So just to have some musical context to see if it's in sync or not. And the way you do that in Bitwig, they have this hardware instrument layer, and since the OB6 is connected via USB, it registers as its own device. So let's use that as MIDI output and my input, audio input 3 and 4. And so browser again, I set up some chord for that. And there you go. And is it perfectly synced? Let's check. No, it's a tiny bit off. And interestingly enough, there is an option to say override driver timing in the main settings. And if I let Bitwig do that job, It sits without any fiddling, though. JCO Music, could you record it now? What do you mean, MIDI or audio? I mean, of course you can record it, because if you use this way, right now we have the MIDI information, and interestingly enough, Bitwig can have audio and MIDI combined in a track. The way I understand it and the way I would use it is simply create a second audio track say audio in or I can even say use a hardware instrument if I have any effects layered into this one. For example, let's add, I don't know, a little bit of delay. So now we have the option to say, let's take the audio from delay out. Let's record that to a clip. I mean, we could also put it into arrangement now, but so as simple as that, and at each point you can define which audio output you want. You can grab the output or the signal that's coming in, or whatever where you want to grab the audio from your chain, you can do that. Another way you can do that is for example, there is also the audio receiver device. If you have some kind of processing going on and you want to layer that, you can put the OB6 onto something else and record the output of your complex thing if you wanted to use that for, I don't know, ring modulation or so. No big deal. Can do. And I really like how this is integrated. The interesting question is, and Stereo Jack and I had fiddled around with that in his studio because he has a Mackie mixer and is summing in that one. The way, as far as I understood that, is that you can, for one, set out audio outputs to all the outputs that you defined in your audio settings right now, because I don't have any outboard gear that I can feed anything to. Whatever you put in here, you could run it to that. Or how did that work? At any given point in your chain, you can also send your audio to any of your defined outputs here. If you feel like, I have some outboard gear that I want to send it to, but within the effects from Bitwig, you put it into the end. If you want to do some parallel processing, you send it out further and do some stuff here and route it back into Bitwig somewhere else, wherever you like. And I think that's really flexible. Of course, you have to have probably then a very well set up latency latency because I'm not using that much outboard gear and I'm not summing externally. I can't really say anything about that, but Stereo Jack, we will try that soon and see how this works correctly. Oh, hi Okan. catching up your life first time. Great stuff. OB6 sounds good. Yes, it sounds amazing. And about that. So, and that's interesting. How far can you take the grid? Let's segue into that. And then get back to the OB6. So I really love those old string machines, Solina type and all this stuff there is. And that is an interesting exercise to go and try. And one of the first things whenever I beta test or make a patch and I get a new instrument to check out, I'm trying to do a Solina type thing just to see if it's possible. And this is about the grid now. I've done that with the grid as well. Let's just, for the sake of reference, check out how boring this thing sounds. So what I've done is analyze the output of its waveform. Let's take this as the best type of Solina instrument I have right now. However, so reference, keep that in mind. Same waveform, and it's lovely what the grid offers. So a little bit of backstory. I've been using Reactor or Generator since the earliest version. And I'm not good with DSP programming like at all. I can handle a certain amount of abstraction, but not go really deep. Reactor, yeah, I want to build my own stuff in that, and I get entangled with all these granular things way too easily. So it feels like it's not really my own. Same with Max for Live and about anything else I tried. And I think that the abstraction layer, the grid found between here's an oscillator and not make that too complicated, and here's a filter, but also here are some math modules. Do what you want. Works for me really well to build something like a Solina. So I was able to generate the sub-octaves coming from the bent sawtooth, and it still doesn't sound too fancy, but let's add some of these weird phasers to that and a little bit of stereo. And I have kind of my own Solina thing going, like within, I don't know, 90 minutes. That's nothing I can say about anything else, or Max for Live or Reactor, where I have to deal with so many other things. And I think this is part of the design philosophy of Bitwig. Give people the right amount of information and depth, but not too much. I mean, okay, this patch is also a nice box of noodles, but I can still understand what's going on. And on top of that, it sounds damn good. And that's kind of the point. So back to the OB6. The next thing I obviously tried was like, hey, make an OB6. Can you do an OB6 with Bitwig? And this isn't done. Obviously. And I think I fucked up the filter. I haven't done any macros yet. So I need to think about this for a second. Just to give you an idea how I'm doing that and how you can do that too. This is the OB, and right now I would have to disable everything to just get the raw waveform, but let's check out the filter, because that's kind of interesting how close you can get. If I knew what I was doing, let's disable that. Yes, sorry, off camera tweaking. And add so now I have to check how this was working. What did I do to the filter? How did I screw it up? There is something missing. Awesome. Great. Yeah, do stuff on camera. Bitwig. Is it this one? Yeah, sorry. I know which point I'm trying to make. I just don't know how. This isn't the correct file. How lousy is that? No. Yeah, before I get to looking around much longer. The thing is, you can stack filters and subtract stuff and invert things and really create a lot of sound with those few filter types if you find the right cutoff frequencies. And I will totally deliver a deeper session, because I want to take the OB6 thing much further in the grid, because I just love how the filter sounds. It's like super creamy. However, more things and other things to not let this go off-road too far. This is another chord thingy I built in the grid. And I really like the idea of being able to build my own synths with that. And you can. Hey Neosolute, welcome back. And hey Travis, and Ronan, and hey Richard. Oh, no, I don't leave Ableton. You will be getting more stuff. In 2 days, hopefully we'll talk about Ableton Wavetable, all right? So if you want to build your own sounds and moving instruments in the grid, that's not really too hard if you understand the basics of synthesis, because like I said, this is an abstraction layer that still works and you can try out everything, and this is not too complicated. I really like how this works and how easy it is to build stuff in the grid. And if you've seen, for example, Polarity's channel, he's doing all these weird, huge generative patches that keep playing and evolving. That's cool. What I love is I'm able to build my own synths in here. and focus on timbres and how sound gets generated. And have your own weird controls. And then share stuff with folks. It's like super fun. So, you get the idea. What else do we have? And yeah, Stereo Jack, it does look very complicated. I think it depends on the type of user you are. If you want to have ownership for your sound and are not afraid of diving a little bit deeper, and like I said, I'm not too keen on going way too deep because it also breaks my head, but the abstraction level here is... it's enough and it's not too deep, and at the same time it is very complex, of course. But yeah, I guess it really depends on the type of sound personality you are. You want to do your own thing, can do, no big deal. Or well, there are a lot of good tutorials out there to help you get going. And also what I like about Bitwig is that you get a reasonable amount of info what something does by simply pointing the mouse to it, pressing F1, and this isn't only in the grid but every device. It's just very well documented. So, oh, hey Phil, how are you doing? Sienna, it actually looks more legible than I'd expect, not so confusing. Yes, and that's what I started with in the beginning. The way the entire interface is made, it looks more complex than it actually is because it makes a lot of sense given the complexity. And I understand why, for example, live is so reduced. It's made for playing out live. It can happen that you're in Bitwig and press a button and you get somewhere completely else, and it has a lot of use, and that's something I haven't really understood how to navigate around myself. Sometimes I get lost because I don't know the shortcuts. So need a cheat sheet too. But I think they did a great job at managing the complexity and the way they present the information. And yeah, now I know why I put this project in here. Sienna says, there is of course an underlying complexity, but it seems to and wrapped up very well. Yeah, Fire Apple Red, sorry. And you can control within the help box too. Yes, it's interactive. And that in place help is insanely clever. It is. I resort to it a lot, especially when fiddling around in the grid. There's another nifty little detail I really enjoy using, coming from the tracker background, where you have like everything in this huge spreadsheet kind of thing that is on one hand very TMI-ish, fast. However, you are always in the entire context. You put your drums into the same context where you put your chords and everything else. And what I like about, let's listen to this for a second. So this is a little bit much, a few more tracks. Now, you can also edit your clips or notes or whatever information in context to each other, and I find that very handy. Let's select these tracks and use this icon down here. So right now, this is the information from this MIDI clip, this is the other one, and this is the layer beneath, just really tiny small notes. However, I can put them in context and edit these things here. Wait. So, and right now I have access to these 3 layers that end up being the bass. Like this slappy one, some lower thingy, and this one. And I can start editing things in context. So let's say I want to edit the slap notes. Then I simply lock the tracks so I can't edit them anymore. It's probably a little bit of a challenge to that's where granularity of my notes fails. But I find this super convenient to be able to see the context of my bass program and edit notes in that context. Same if we look at these blurby things. There you go. And it's really simple to see what's going on in one channel and move things around. And it's just so clever and handy. It's not much, but it's good fun. It's there when I need it and prevents me from switching context all the time. And I really want to switch context as little as possible, and that's really cool. So, and when I hear the variations you already created, this is a perfect live experience thing. Not one gig would be the same. Brilliant. Yeah, I make kind of different stuff sometimes. If I ever read, you can have any combination of used to. Yes, I need to find my way around that. Like I said, when I start learning something, I'm coming with my own perspective and ideas, and I focus on these things, and I'm still exploring so much. And also with Ableton's wavetable, there is so much left to explore. That's why I want to make the next stream about that. Watch the announcement. It's just good fun. And also, this here is just the FM4 thingy, the Bitwig, sorry. FM synth, a little bit operator-like. It does so many things, and along with these modulators, you can have never-ending changing sequences. That's like dope. And of course, you can also use that with your VST plugins. Whenever I'm missing like an LFO on a plugin, I can use it. And yes, like I said, I can do that in Ableton as well. It's a few clicks more and it's a bigger display. It's not much. Anyway. So, I need to check my stream cheat sheet for a second. So I thought this was going to take longer, and to me, these are the things that are the strengths of Bitwig. It's not like this one feature, it's like how things come together and how things can be used that make a huge difference. And I guess one has to try it to experience what these things mean in the context that Bitwig is, to make sense of that, really. And I mean, we could talk about strange sound design in Bitwig like forever, but I feel that this would need a little bit more preparation and a somewhat fixed focus. Questions, anyone? And oh yes, the MIDI integration obviously works super simple, like in Ableton Live as well. I've got my Behringer thingy here, and maybe I shouldn't use the tuning. And that's that. Simple, straightforward. And obviously right now I can also add an automation lane, and usually with, I don't know why this happens, if you do that with Bitwig's internal devices, the last used parameter always gets shown here. Maybe there is a reason for why it didn't work right now. Sometimes it doesn't, and I couldn't yet make sense of why. Either YouTube is slowing down or your upstream is overloaded. I'm getting a steady rate around 3.5 kilobits. It looks all right. Yeah, I get a few frame loss errors every now and then, and I don't have the most stable internet connection. It's Vodafone. We all know how stable that has been since they have bought Kabel Deutschland. It seems like variable experience of the stream quality for you guys, huh? So, is there anything specific you would want to think me about, or I don't know? Neosolute is missing an MSEG modulator. I wonder if that couldn't be faked. Yeah, let's go back to some chords. It's all right. We saved that. Bye bye, Obi. Yeah, less distracting. Yeah. If that was it for a first saying hi to Bitwig, I'm fine with that. Not every stream has to be 2 hours long, right? I thought it would have taken me longer to get through this today. However, if you have any questions, if you're watching this after the live stream, put your questions below and we can see. Maybe I can't answer it. Some things I don't know myself, and yeah, I should really check out how to configure the views. And I mean, most of the time I've got a 2 monitor setup either way, so this is also a little bit unusual, and this tends to happen if your modulations are going out of hand. What else do I like? The meters. Proper metering. That is a representation of my gain structure. I can easily comprehend and see what's going on. That's something I really like as well. And it has so many features. I guess the browser in itself has like, I'm using 1% of its capabilities. Tja. I really need to start making an own library and shortcuts to my favorite plugins and instruments. That might be handy as if nobody has any pressing questions, and yes, an MSEG modulator would be great. I would also love a freeform spline thing. Maybe you mean that. However, if you're watching this, you can also make really complex modulations with the step module. Let me see if I can find anything. What's this? If you're using the step, it has the smooth option. Let's randomize something. Let's see where this goes. Modulation preventing it from playing? Probably. What's happening? Why is it happening? Yeah, that's a strange patch. Let's not use this. However, I really like using... Let's check this out for a second. Yeah, that should do the trick. So you can also use the steps module as envelope for something, and obviously blend it with like anything else. I'm not sure why I want a freeform drawable thing. This does the job. It's drawable. Yeah, should let go of that. So it seems like I have some trouble with my internet connectivity right now. Even though the stream is still working. Just a quick second. Yeah, it looks like stuff is broke just for the sake of finishing the video. No, wait, something is happening. Okay, stream is okay. Anyway, I feel like right now this can only get worse for today. And I think my bladder wants to go somewhere again. So in case nobody has any pressing questions, I would conclude this session for today and hope you have got a better idea what Bitwig is good at, or what I think about it, or maybe you want to give it a try or whatever. I will be back on Friday with Ableton Wavetable. So see you then. And I will keep you busy, and say hi on Patreon as well if you want to support me, or Twitter, or whatever, wherever, or join the Discord, or come back on Friday. I should really end this stream here today. So see you on Friday, hopefully. And if you're watching the recording, yeah, the comments are there, and check out the description. I'm hopefully going to structure this. Yes, I'm going to structure this, so there should be links to topics and time. And yeah, so see you on Friday. And stay sane and safe and healthy and away from groups, and have faith that the world isn't going to become a zombie parade. Okay? Do me the favor. See you soon. Bye.